Now, as most players have likely wrapped up with the first phase banner of 2.0 featuring Carlotta, it would be about time to start considering the release of arguably the best sub-DPS character in the game within the second phase. Roccia will be officially releasing in just over a week from now and no doubt will be an extremely valuable character, which I'm sure many of us have been able to experience firsthand given we were able to test play her for quite a bit during the 2.0 main story. So to just ensure those that are eagerly waiting for Roccia are fully prepared, I'll be going through the Ascension and skill upgrade materials required, briefly going over her best team synergies as I have already gone over them in the last Roccia dedicated video, viable echo builds, weapons that can be utilized, then I'll be simply wrapping it up with Roccia's overall value and whether or not you should summon. Just before we jump into it, as always, would really appreciate it if you could subscribe for more WutheringWaves content and drop a like if you enjoyed the video. Now, regarding Roccia's Ascension and skill upgrade materials, she will first of all require 29 green tidal residues, 40 blue tidal residues, 52 purple tidal residues, and 61 gold tidal residues. Given these materials are brand new, I expect most players will be quite low on them, so as usual, you can pick them up from defeating specific enemies in the open world, along with picking up green and blue residues from the weapon shop in Renacita, and lastly, they can be exchanged for osculated corals within the store. However, unlike before version 2.0, you can simply convert any cores and rings that you have stacked up into tidal residues. So for players that have a ton of spare resources in your inventory just sitting there, preparing for a new character has never been easier as you can save quite some time through the new conversion feature. Though if you are a new player and you don't have spare materials, I would suggest to prioritize picking up tidal residues from enemies that drop within the new Havoc Echo set first, since to no surprise it is going to be one of Roccia's best Echo sets. Now, in addition to tidal residues, Roccia being a Gornet's character will require 25 green cadence seeds, 28 blue cadence seeds, 55 purple cadence seeds, and 67 gold cadence seeds. As with the open world boss materials, you'll need to farm the Lorelei boss and pick up 46 cleansing conches, and regarding the weekly boss, as you can imagine, you'll need to farm the new weekly Hecate boss in Renacita and would require a total of 26 netherworld stairs. Then lastly, you'll need to pick up 60 firecracker plants within the open world along with 2.2 million credits to completely max out Roccia. Now, briefly going over Roccia's team synergies, it is pretty obvious that Roccia is tailor-made for Camellia, given Roccia's outro skill will provide effect bonuses which directly impact Camellia's DPS. On top of that, Camellia will be receiving an additional 200 flat attack from Roccia's Liberation and a Pocket Tornado in her gadget slot, which certainly would pair perfectly with her Blazing Wall spinning attack. So Camellia without a doubt will benefit the most from Roccia and will be capable of dealing more damage than ever alongside her. However, if you don't have Camellia but would still want to pick up Roccia, there are some other characters that will synergize quite well, such as Havoc Rover. Especially since Rover has now received an additional 2 sequence nodes from the Renacita main story, they do perform slightly better overall as they can now reduce Havoc resistance by 10% through Deliberation and deal additional damage from basic attacks. So given a main DPS Havoc Rover does in fact deal a lot of basic attacks, it certainly means the Havoc damage and basic attack damage amplification from Roccia's outro in addition will be extremely valuable. Now, since Jiyan is also a Havoc character, she would benefit significantly from the Havoc damage amplification along with the attack buff and Pocket Tornado, since it allows Jiyan to not only deal even more damage, but will be easier to use and for there to be less strain on positioning as she can crowd control enemies herself. Now, given the 25% basic attack damage amplification is quite valuable alone within Roccia's outro skill, characters such as Lumi, Encore, and even Calcharo would benefit as they do specialize in dealing basic attack damage and so would partially benefit from Roccia's outro skill. Of course, there is Sanhua that can provide a massive 38% basic attack damage amplification through her outro skill, but considering the comfortability and additional utility Roccia can provide, there will be some players that might prefer utilizing Roccia over Sanhua. So as an alternative, Roccia will synergize very well alongside characters that specialize in dealing basic attack damage despite not being Havoc type characters. With that being said, due to Roccia providing an attack bonus through deliberation along with multiple crowd controlling abilities, that would alone allow her to synergize with any main DPS. Of course, if the main DPS either deals Havoc damage or specializes in dealing basic attack damage, Roccia would synergize with them a lot more. But if you don't specifically have the best in slot sub DPS character for a main DPS, then Roccia would be an amazing replacement which can provide insane value. Moving on to Roccia's viable Echo builds, as I have stated earlier, the new Havoc Echo set Midnight Veil will be one of the best Echo sets to utilize, but is in fact the best to maximize the amount of damage Roccia would deal. Since the 2-piece effect provides a 10% Havoc damage bonus, and with the 5-piece effect, the Ultra skill will deal an additional 480% Havoc damage to enemies and grants a 15% Havoc damage bonus to the character switching in. So with that, you ideally want to pair Roccia up with a Havoc main DPS when utilizing this Echo set in specific. Now, as there are 2 4-cost Echoes, you can opt for a 4-4-1-1-1 build, but as usual, I would recommend aiming for a 4-3-3-1-1 build since it will yield the best results. As for the main Echo to utilize for Roccia, the Nightmare version of the Impermanent Terran will certainly be the best Echo to go with, since not only does it provide a 12% boost in Havoc damage and heavy attack damage bonus, which are pretty much the best stats Roccia could ask for, but the effect bonuses are unconditional and have a 100% uptime unlike every other non-Nightmare Echo. The cherry on top would be the Echo skill can be swap cancelled and will deal damage to surrounding enemies, which makes this an amazing Echo for Roccia to utilize. As for an alternative Echo set, there would of course be the good old Moonlit Cloud set for a more supportive build on Roccia, since along with the 5-piece effect providing a 22.5% attack boost to the ally switching in, the standard Impermanent Terran can also provide an additional 12% damage boost, allowing for the main DPS to be more of a hyper carry and to hit incredibly hard. So with the release of our new Echo sets within Renacita, there is much more variety and choice for players with the Echo build they can go with. Since if you want Roccia to specifically deal as much damage as possible, then the Midnight Veil will be the best set to opt for. On the other hand, if you want to ensure your main DPS hits as hard as possible, then the Moonlit Cloud set will be the set to utilize. Now, as for the exact main stats to aim for on Roccia's Echoes, the 4-cost will definitely require crit rate so that you can ensure you reach the 70% crit requirement to maximize the attack bonus provided from Deliberation. However, if you can reach 70% without the 4-cost Echo, then you can opt for crit damage to of course maximize Roccia's damage. The 3-cost Echoes would definitely want Havoc damage bonus, and the 1-cost Echoes would want attack percent. Regarding substats, considering Roccia's attack buff scales off her own crit rate, along with Deliberation dealing heavy attack damage and with the plunge attacks Roccia deals also being considered as heavy attack damage, the main substats then to aim for would be crit rate, crit damage and heavy attack damage. As for the remaining substats, it would likely be best to aim for attack percent and energy regen. But as long as an Echo has those main 3 substats, then the remaining 2 substats wouldn't really matter that much. Lastly, as for Roccia's weapon options, the signature is still yet to be disclosed, but given the state of her kit, I would see the weapon providing crit rate as the main stat, along with an unconditional attack bonus of 12% and a heavy attack damage bonus of 48% minimum. So with those stats, it would of course be the best in slot weapon as it will make it much easier to build Roccia. But as for alternatives, if you do intend to skip the signature weapon, there would be a few, and the best alternative would definitely be Verity's Handle, given the main stat provides the much wanted crit rate boost along with a 12% attribute damage bonus and a 48% liberation damage bonus. Though as mentioned, Roccia's liberation does scale off heavy attack damage, so the liberation bonus wouldn't really be utilized, but the remaining effects and especially the main stats would be extremely valuable for Roccia. Though aside from the Verity's Handle, there is the Stone-On, which is a Battle Pass 4-star weapon but is the only other gauntlet that provides a crit rate main stat. As for the passive, it is pretty useless since it's just a liberation damage bonus, but a crit rate boost of 22.2% alone will still make this weapon a solid alternative for a support build on Roccia. As a last resort, the Abyss Surges would be a decent option, but since it doesn't provide any boost in crit rate or heavy attack damage, there will then be much more pressure on your Echo substats. Although the Abyss Surges do still provide a solid boost in attack through the main stats and an energy regen increase through the passive, which will make this a good alternative if you do get lucky with crit rates and heavy attack damage bonus rolls on your echoes. So there are quite a few weapon choices for Roccia, but as always the signature weapon will be the best in slot by far since it is tailor-made. That being said, unless it provides any additional effects aside from the ones I have mentioned, I don't think it would be a must pull, and especially if you are able to provide Roccia with another weapon with a crit rate main stat. But of course it will provide more value regardless. So overall, Roccia is not only the most stacked sub-DPS character in the game on release, given she can provide a multitude of buffs through the outro and liberation, but is also one of the most fun characters to play with that can deal considerable damage with her plunge attacks and provide great utility to allies. Additionally, since the outro skill is the Havoc variation of Yinlin and Zhezhi's outro skill, it certainly means Roccia will hold an immense amount of longevity just like them. So in terms of overall value, Roccia is most definitely amongst the top and is arguably the most valuable sub-DPS. As mentioned, Roccia does specialize in supporting Camellia, but can support many other characters and will definitely support many more that drop later on. So even if you just like the character but don't have Camellia, she would still be worth pulling for as she can provide a ton of value to your account and would be seen as a long-term investment. However, it is extremely important to also consider the newly revealed 2.1 characters and whether they may hold more value for your account, especially since they will be releasing after Roccia, so without a doubt will massively impact certain players' accounts. So if you do need some more info on prioritizing your pulls between Roccia and the 2.1 characters in particular, I do so happen to have released a video recently to help with exactly that. Though even if you are certain in pulling for Roccia, you will be safe knowing you are definitely pulling an extremely valuable character that will stay relevant for a while. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe for more WutheringWaves content, and if you enjoyed the video, drop a like. Also, drop a comment down below on whether you are summoning for Roccia or will you be skipping for 2.1 onwards. And yeah, hope to catch you guys later.